who make remarks like that are always men who have never had daughters. My admiration for her is wholly innocent. I hope your wife believes you." When David was harbouring one of his romantic notions, he became incredibly naive, and I was not in the least surprised when he told me he wanted to invite Blanche to England so that his wife could present her at court. I never heard his wife's comment on this ingenious scheme, but presently, when David confessed to me with a sigh that he had abandoned his aspirations, I wasted no time feeling sorry for him. Half the fun David derived from his romantic notions came when he was forced to abandon them. He liked to yearn moodily for a week or two like some pastoral swain in a popular painting. Indeed, as far as I knew, no romantic notion of his had ever been consummated, for consummation would have been a great anticlimax, and his wife, by whom he was secretly intimidated, would have been much too severe to make such reckless behaviour worthwhile. I was very fond of David. When he died 3 years after his encounter with Blanche, I felt the loss profoundly, for he had been my last link with the remote past, the only person who had shared my early memories of Cashelmara. I was still adjusting myself painfully to his death when I received a long and eloquent letter of sympathy from America. Blanche Marriott had seen David's obituary in the Times, and had written to say that she mourned with me in my bereavement. I was surprised and touched. I wrote back, not expecting to hear from her again, but presently she sent a second letter, and soon, almost before I was aware of what was happening, we were conducting a regular correspondence. "I seem to have taken your Uncle David's place in your cousin Blanche's affections," I said, amused to my daughter Nell. "I can't quite think why, but I admit it's very pleasant. She writes the most charming letters." "It's good of you to take the trouble to write to her when you're so busy, Papa," said Nell. "Poor girl, orphaned so young. No doubt she has a great need for a mature male relative whom she can regard as a father." I found this remark extraordinarily irritating, and after that I no longer spoke to Nell about her cousin. Blanche was 18 by this time, and evidently most accomplished. I learned that she played the piano, took lessons on the harp, spoke French and Italian, and read all those women's novels which have given the decade the name of the feminine 50s. She did not seem to care about the political issues of the day. To my relief, I heard quite enough about those at Westminster. But she told me about the current events in New York, the enlargement of the Astor Library, the establishment of the Cooper Institute, the Staten Island riots, and the great fire that destroyed the Crystal Palace in Bryant Park. Her descriptions of the fire were so graphic that I told her she should try her hand at a novel, and she said yes, she would like to write a novel just like John Halifax, Gentleman, which she was rereading for the 9th time. I was entertained. I saw no harm in such an agreeable correspondence, and besides, I liked the idea that somewhere in the world there was a charming young woman who not only wrote regularly to me, but ended each letter by expressing the hope that one day she might make my acquaintance in person. Shortly after her 20th birthday, she sent me a sketch of herself drawn by an artistic friend. "Very fetching," said my daughter Nell when I was unable to resist showing the picture to someone. "But, Papa, why should she send you such a thing?"
"Why shouldn't she?"
I began to feel irritated, and this was unusual, for Nell was my favourite daughter. "I see nothing odd about it." "Supposing, when I was her age, I had sent a sketch of myself to your friend Lord Dunedin?"
"It's not the same thing at all," I said, more annoyed than ever. "You're not related to Dunedin, and I'm related by marriage to Blanche."
"I see," said Nell, and tactfully changed the subject. I never had the chance to discuss Blanche with her again, for shortly after that conversation in the March of 1859, Nell died in childbirth, and once again I was left with a gaping void in the fabric of my life, and an almost unendurable sense of loss. This time, however, I was so angry that there was barely room for grief. I was angry with everyone, with Nell's stupid oaf of a husband, who had taken her to his Dorset manor for the confinement, instead of letting her stay in London where she could have had the best possible care, with the poor dead infant, who had deprived his mother of life, with the foolish people who wrote to me afterward to say how grateful I must feel that I still had